Hello and welcome to Swopper Whopper. No. Hello and welcome to Whopper Shopper. Hello and welcome to Swopper Hopper. Hello and welcome to Swopper Shopper. Today we're going to be discussing KitKats versus the Tesco Twin Fingers. We're going to see if these snappy fingers are really any different to the KitKat variants. And if they are, is it worth the money? Now these KitKats we all know and love. Now these are a perfect little snack, whether or not you take them to the work, whether or not it's for the kids' pack up. I'm sure you've all had a KitKat at some point in time. But have you had the Tesco Twin Wafers? Now they look identical. They're supposed to be identical to KitKats, but are they actually identical? So if we have a look at calories for these KitKats, per bar, we're looking at 104 calories, 10.2 grams of sugar. If we look at the Tesco Snappy Wafers, we're looking at 116 calories. We're looking at 10.2 grams of sugar. Interestingly, both got the same amount of sugar. Still a lot of sugar for what they are. Now, normally you'd have a top-down shot of me just eating KitKats, but I thought that's no fun. I've got to be in the video and I've got to show you what these are actually like to eat. So let's get straight into it. So I'm going to start off by everyone's favourite KitKats. Now, as you'll notice, you actually get 9 of these, but you only get 8 of these, surprisingly. Now I'm going to put the prices on screen now so you can see exactly how much these twin wafers are and exactly how much these KitKats are. Now, as I was starting to look at these KitKats in Tesco, I did actually wonder whether or not I have actually been overlooking the cheaper ones for so long, because after all, they look identical and they're supposed to taste identical. It's just chocolate with a bit of wafer in. What can be that different, honestly? So here's the KitKat that you know and love. So it's got 66% milk chocolate, and as you can imagine, there's the distinctive red wrapper for a KitKat. Now, before I eat this one, I'm just going to take out a twin snappy finger out its packet just as well, just to see the difference. Now, interestingly, you'll see the KitKats are in foil wrapper, and these are just in a standard plastic wrapper. Now, interestingly, they do look quite chunky compared to the KitKats. Can't really tell on camera, but I think it's mainly the fact that it's the packaging that makes it a little bit thicker, but we're going to see if they're actually much thicker. Here's them side by side, just in case you wanted a comparison. As you can see, it's just packaging. Realistically, the packaging is not going to make a difference to the taste. Ultimately, these are just a marketing gimmick, as you'd imagine. The KitKat branding, the distinctive red wrapper, it's the same with Coca-Cola and all the likes of that. You're going to buy it ultimately for the brand. You ate it as a kid, you're bound to eat it as an adult. Ultimately, you're going to favour a KitKat. So, are these actually any better? Now, I've said that enough times, but ultimately, that's what we're coming down to, is whether or not it's actually any cheaper to go and buy these than it is to go and buy these KitKats. Now, we know price-wise, of course, these are going to be cheaper, but if these are going to taste worse and make you fancy another snack, ultimately, these could be less value. So if you're buying one of these Snappy Fingers, and then you're not really enjoying it, and you're moving on to another snack to get rid of the taste, ultimately, you would have been better off buying a single KitKat. Now, I'm not a scruff. I'm going to eat off a plate. I've decided it wasn't ideal to be putting chocolate on the table. I'm going to clean it regardless, but I'm not going to eat off the table. I'm not a dirty pig. So let's try the twin Snappy Fingers. Is that what they're called? Snappy Fingers? Twin wafer Snappy Fingers. Crispy wafer centre. Smothered in silky smooth milk chocolate. Let's see if they're actually that silky. I bet they're not. No distinctive foil wrapper, so ultimately less ideal to eat, because I usually eat them out of the foil wrapper and it helps your hands stop being sticky and chocolatey, but this occasion I'm glad I got the plate. Here's what they look like, just so you can see them. Just looks like a KitKat, to be fair. Okay, distinctive snap. Okay, fairly good. Looks like a KitKat to me, but of course it's not KitKat. Do they actually taste any good? Let's have a go. Interestingly, if you've had Nestle chocolate before, which you would have done, you know that Nestle chocolate tastes a lot different to Cadbury's chocolate. It's just not as milky, not as smooth. And these, you can definitely tell that it tastes an imitation of Nestle and Cadbury's, because it tastes pretty similar to how I expect these KitKats to taste now I'm going to test them. So I'm going to put that to one side. I'm going to try the KitKat version. Just the KitKat. Snap test. Fairly good. again. Now, arguably, I would actually say that these Tesco ones had a bit more of a sharper snap, but you don't really buy a KitKat for how it sounds, you buy it for how it tastes. So, let's go. Interesting. If I was blind taste testing this, I'd immediately know that these ones are the KitKat ones. Now, there's a unique reason why. You may not have realised. If you've actually seen how KitKats are made, you'll see, ultimately, and you might not be able to see this on camera, but ultimately, in the middle of them, there's like a creamy little chocolate coating that goes in between the wafers. And that's actually broken up KitKats that are remade into the KitKat filling. With the Tesco ones, it doesn't look like they've done it. It's literally just chocolate sandwiched in between wafers, but none of the kind of silky, smooth texture that you get from the crumbled up KitKats. So what do I think? Well, I think ultimately you've just wasted a few minutes of your life watching a man on the internet eat KitKats. But honestly, if you wanted to understand whether or not these Tesco KitKats, well, I can't call them KitKats, remember them. They're twin wafer snappy fingers. A bit of a mouthful to say. But if you think they're any better than KitKats. Now, obviously you've seen the price difference. You can see that you only get 8 of these, but only 9 of these. Ultimately, I would say these are pretty much worth it. I mean, ultimately, I don't think you eat a KitKat for long enough to the point where you notice much of a difference. You notice it on the initial tasting. But honestly, if I was just looking for a snack at work, or you as a family and you wanted to buy some for your kids and you're trying to save money and buy them in bulk, honestly, go with the Tesco ones. I just realised I've got them in the wrong order. You saw nothing. Now, would I recommend KitKats to a friend? Well, honestly, if you look at the labels, now you can see the labels actually almost closely match the red packaging on a KitKat. Look at how many red symbols they've got. In fact, the only red symbol there isn't is salt, because it has 0.05 grams, which is to be expected. They're high in fat, they're high in saturated fat, and they're high in sugar. 104 calories, you can argue, is okay for a little snack, to be honest, but these Tesco ones are not much better. Again, red in fat, red in saturates, red in sugar. 0.1 grams of salt, actually, so tiniest bit more salt on these. I'm not sure why. Can't really taste the difference. But remember, these have got more calories. So these ones, 12 more calories per bar than the KitKat ones. I mean, it doesn't make a massive difference to me. If you're going to have a snack, what's 12 calories for it? But honestly, if you're just looking for a cheap and easy snack, I'd go with these.